App and main have given us our overall styles. And we've styled sidebar. So just going left to right, we can do NoteList next. Nav, that was all that other thing. Here's NoteList. So NoteList, if you look at this next rule, that actually applies to NoteList as well. We'll talk more about that rule in a sec. Okay, NoteList. The UL with an ID of notes, that's inside NoteList as well. Blah, 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 all the way down to here. Everything above note form here. So, NoteList, CSS. I'll paste this into Slack because it's a little hard to do that with your mouse, especially if you have the font as big as I do. Here's my NoteList CSS. There's quite a bit in here. Border, that's simple enough. We set a width of 30 rem, which we know now is 300 pixels in this app. And then here's this. I think Seth briefly mentioned media queries the other day. This is for responsive design. In other words, design that is based on the size of the screen. So the rule inside these brackets applies only when the width is 800 pixels or less. So when the screen gets narrower, the width goes from 30 rem to 20 rem. So basically, if the screen gets smaller, we want to make sure there's still plenty of room left over for the form. That's the point here. On the H3, we set a font, we set some margin, blah, blah, blah. There's actually a lot going on with the UL and the LIs. This is kind of interesting. You can use a calc function in CSS. If you want the height or width or something of an element to be based on a couple of different things. Like I want it to take up the entire height, except I got to leave room for the heading at the top. So that's what that's about. Okay, blah, blah, blah. We got some more transition stuff happening here. We'll see in a second. So why is that not? What's going on in NoteList component? We still just have this one paragraph. So if we go to static HTML, here's the list. NoteList with an H3 and a UL and a bunch of LIs for these fake notes. I don't need all of those. I'll just get the first. I'll just grab the first LI so that we can see how the styles work. So I'll just copy this much. Oops. From div class NoteList to the end of the first LI. Stick it in NoteList.js. So I need parentheses now in my return statement because it's a multi-liner. Now don't forget, I didn't copy the closing UL tag or the closing div tag. I have some classes here. We know we can't call it class inside JSX. So I just read the release notes for the newest version of VS Code. It's Command or Control, I guess, that you hold down to do multiple cursors. I think I must have had an extension to make it Alt. But anyway, hold that down while you click, and you can put multiple cursors in. Really handy when you need to do something like that. All right. What does that get us? All right, not bad. So now the actual UL you see, that's why we want it to take up the whole height except for however much space this stuff up here takes. So that's why we have the calc. Because we want to take up the whole rest of this. And we had to set an explicit height because I want it to scroll independently. I don't want the whole page to scroll. I only want my list of notes to scroll. So to do that, I'm going to use overflow like we did to limit the width of that thing in Dinoplasty. But this time I'm doing it to the height. And instead of doing overflow hidden like we did there, I'm saying overflow Y, so the vertical overflow, scroll. So that makes this element scroll independently of everything else on the page. So if it runs long, it'll get a scroll bar. And that doesn't look too bad. And you see the lovely ease in and out background color change. There, that's all background color. And we've got a hard-coded note in there. Add static content and style to NoteList.